Hey, it's Marcus from Holosuite, helping experimental artists make more, better music. Do you work with a lot of stereo instruments when you're making ambient music? If so, you might be familiar with what I'm talking about today, which I like to call the paradox of ambience, which is that when you put everything in stereo, nothing sounds like it's in stereo. Now sit with me here. I know this sounds a little odd, but strangely, if you put more mono instruments in your mixes, you will more likely feel a sense of space. If you've ever worked with rock music or any other kind of more standard genre of music, you're probably familiar with panning laws, right? You put some things in the middle, you put some things on the left, and you put some things on the right. But when people make ambient music, it's more common that they will layer everything to be out in the sides so that it sounds big. But paradoxically, this makes it harder to focus in on anything specific and kind of makes it sound like a bit of a mushy cloud. Now this has happened to me in my music as well. And today I'm going to show you a little trick I've been working out at the mastering side using this wonderful plugin named Split EQ from Eventide to kind of pull some things into the middle, and oddly enough, it will give you a sense of space in your music. Now before we get into it, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Your support will help me to keep making free tutorials for you. If you like this tutorial and are making your own music and are interested in trying out my service, please follow the link in the description to get a free mastering sample, and I can show you just how good I can make your music sound. All right, let's get into it. Okay, so I've picked a couple of tracks today for this example. They're actually a couple of my old tracks from my second EP that I ever made. It's been remastering them. It's quite fun to go back and listen to what I did well, and also the kinds of things that I think I could improve. And one of the things that I think I can improve with these tracks is the sense of space and separation and kind of airiness in my mixes. So I'm going to work on those today. So let's have a listen to the first track here. Okay, so if you're on headphones, hopefully you heard all the fun things happening around the sides there. Things are kind of moving a little bit and everything feels quite kind of big. But the one thing that I've noticed now that I go back to listen to it is that it feels a little bit hollow in the middle. And one thing that I used to do a lot, I guess in the past, was trying to make everything as kind of far out to the sides as possible. But as I've kind of developed my skills, I found that having something in the middle actually gives you a kind of a better sense of space, because I feel like maybe you can compare what's going on in the middle compared to what's going on in the sides. Anyway, let's have a look at this using this fancy plugin I've got here called Split EQ by Eventide. And I'm going to try and pull something into the middle to kind of make everything else feel a little bit kind of further away. So Split EQ, if you haven't tried it before, is a plugin that splits the EQ into the transient properties and the tonal properties of your music. So it means that you can simultaneously adjust the bass and the kick separately so that you can make sure that they're balanced with each other. This is incredibly helpful in mastering, particularly if you don't have access to the original mix. In this case, my project files are so old, I've just got the original pre-masters and that's all I've got. So this is really helpful to work through. The other thing that this does that they don't mention a lot on their website or in their ads is that you can individually pan the transient and tonal parts of your music. So I've got this band 3 over here, which I've selected to kind of be the part I'm going to pull to the middle. Not only can I choose to pan left and right, but if I click this button here, it takes me into mid-side mode and allows me to actually choose the width of the transient and the tonal parts just for that band. So what I'm going to do is narrow this band a little bit so that that part of the spectrum kind of pulls a little bit closer to the center, and we'll see what happens. We'll hear what happens when we do that. So hopefully you heard that. It's coming slowly towards the center and it's just trying to find the kind of perfect spot there. But let's listen back and forth. Pretty striking difference, huh? So suddenly everything feels like it's got a bit more space because that kind of top synth has been pulled in a little bit further and it's become a focus in the middle. The space that it used to occupy on the sides has kind of emptied out a little bit, so it allows for you to kind of feel that reverberation and the other tracks feel further away. So suddenly it feels a bit bigger than it did before. And I feel like it's because your brain is really good at comparing things, right? So it's going to, it'll listen to that part in the middle and it'll listen to those parts in the sides, and then everything in between suddenly will feel like kind of air to you. It's a really cool trick. Let's try this again on another track. So same thing, kind of similar band. So I really like this area around, you know, between about 500 and 2K, somewhere in there is a really good spot to pull something into the center, because that's in that vocal range where our brains will really latch on to whatever is in there. And in this case, I feel like it's actually made things a bit cleaner too, a bit clearer, which is really interesting. So it's kind of removed that muddiness without having to do any EQ at all. Just one of those funny psychoacoustic things that really, really works. So you can get split EQ. I think there's a trial available. It's pretty expensive, so I recommend waiting for a Black Friday sale or something to grab it, but it's so useful. But it's important to note that this should only be done if we're at the mastering stage and we don't have access to the original project file, the original multi-tracks, because obviously the best effect is going to be doing this in the mix, grabbing something in your mix and putting it in the middle. But in this case, because I'm don't have access to the original files, they're so old, I'm forced to do it in here. But it's a really good get out of jail free way to get some more space. Okay, I hope that was helpful to you. If you have any questions about what I've done here, please leave them in the comments. Please try this yourself, but remember to do it at the mixing phase first. So put something in the middle in your mix. Don't leave it to the mastering stage, because the mastering stage will never be as good as a well-tuned mix. Okay, until next week, keep making music. Cheers.